Hey, welcome to the show. I don't know if you've noticed, but I've been away for a little bit. Happy to come back, though, and even happier to be coming back with Eric Peters from Eric Peters Autos. Eric,
Yeah.
it's been an interesting couple of weeks, and I mean that in every possible way. But let me first start by saying Happy New Year and how are you?
Well, good. And likewise, and Happy New Year back. I'm happy to be here, but at the same time, I think sometimes I'd be happier to be hiding in a cave somewhere, given everything that's going on, and maybe to be sheltered from the impending mushroom clouds that are probably going to be sprouting up all over the world.
Yeah, I don't even know where to begin other than okay, so apparently last weekend, the U.S. went in and snagged President Maduro from Venezuela. I've heard so much equivocation about, well, it's okay because Obama did this, and even Biden had a $25 million bounty. But help me reconcile, in what way is this defending the interests of the American people or American soil?
Well, there's so many facets to this that are interesting. One of the defenses that has been put forward is the legalism one, that somehow this was a kind of a law enforcement action, that, Maduro is an indicted war criminal of some sort, or a drug criminal, I should say. You can see where I'm headed with this. And that kind of flies in the face of something in that Benjamin Netanyahu is actually an indicted war criminal, somehow is received with all the niceties by the president of the United States when he visits this country. But this Maduro guy, who's supposedly, a narco kingpin, whatever, we have to go get him. He has to be decapitated. And it just so happens that there are tremendous natural resources in Venezuela that are now apparently ours. I don't know all the nitty gritty about this, but it seems to me that Venezuela isn't the United States and that Venezuela owns its resources, and yet somehow these are our oil resources. Now that brings me to what may be one of the more plausible explanations for what was done and why it was done. What if the next step is to regime change the Iranians, and that sets off some fireworks in the Middle East, and that affects global oil supplies emanating from that part of the region. And I think Trump doesn't want $8 a gallon gas in this country, because that would be pretty much the end of his presidency if that were to happen, not to mention the economy. Well, very situationally convenient to have access now to all of that oil that's right there in Venezuela and can easily be brought to the United States in an emergency situation, if need be, to to take the place of any shortfalls that might arise as a result of other political actions elsewhere in the world.
By the way, did you hear that there's a pretty neat silver angle too in terms of those natural resources? Apparently, some huge deal to smelt silver from Venezuela. All this right on the heels of China, as of January 1st, saying they will no longer be exporting silver rather.
Sure. And now, what is the price of an ounce of silver? It's up to, I think, about $70 an ounce, something crazy like that.
Depends on who you ask. In Britain, it was trading at I think the equivalent of about 112 bucks an
Yeah.
ounce.
Yeah. It's just, it seems that events are spiraling out of control, and they're also spiraling in a direction that we didn't vote for. I just this morning put up a piece that hinged on an interview that I saw the other day on Judge Napolitano's show with Colonel Douglas McGregor, and they were talking about what went on in Venezuela. And McGregor made an interesting observation about something that RFK said back in 2024 at a Trump campaign rally about ending the grip of the neocons on American foreign policy, to which, of course, the crowd erupted in great cheers. And that was one of the reasons that so many people, certainly me, voted for Donald Trump, because we're tired of all these wars. We're tired of the United States stomping around the world like some kind of deranged gorilla, committing our treasure and our blood that we need here in this country to make America great again on these things. And here we are with, as you said earlier, George W. Trump in charge again. And the same
Right.
people who were in charge then are apparently in charge again. And all of a sudden, it's the war president. We're at war, constantly at war. How does this serve the interests of America? You tell me. I don't see it.
No, it's very discouraging, and I think again, as always, one of the really discouraging factors of this is how many people remove their principles, about not going out in search of monsters to destroy, and they were just for decoration. No, we're totally on board. He was totally good. Anything to keep believing that this is our guy and everything he's doing is somehow representative of what's best for us.
The good news is there is some dissent. Marjorie Taylor Greene, to her great credit, has come out guns blazing against this and said, this is not MAGA. This is not what we were told we were going to get. You remember that scene in Office Space, the nebbish guy who said, I was told that there would be, I was told that there would be cake. That's how we feel, right? And,
Yep.
Massey, of course, has come out against it. And naturally, Trump calls Massey and traitors. These people are actually principled America First people, principled defenders of this country, not another country. And they are now cast as traitors by the man that we voted to put America first.
Yeah, I'm with you. If I could find some place to hide away from this all, I'd be very tempted to do so. But really, the takeaway here is that look, if it's in politics, if it's in the realm of politics, they are not looking out for your interest. So, make of that what you will, but don't give your time and effort and most of all your moral support to people who are there just to serve themselves while trying to give the appearance that yes, we do this all for you.
There's a related matter too that bears on this that hasn't gotten much coverage, and I wonder whether you saw it. There was a public video presentation by the Russian authorities of pieces of one of the drones, apparently, that were sicked on the presidential palace in Russia by the Ukrainians. Did you catch that?
I
Very
did
interesting.
not.
Yeah, the guy brought out a charred box that contained what looked like electronic pieces, and he said this was part of one of the drones that was sent by the Ukrainians, and which was directed at the personal living space of Vladimir Putin, basically. Hint, hint, meaning we know you guys were behind it because we know they presented this to an American senior officer. We know that the Ukrainians on their own didn't have the capability to target the Ukraine, the presidential palace in Russia. So they know this. This is an
Mm.
astounding thing. That if it's true that Putin thinks that the United States government was behind an attempt to kill him personally, where's that going to lead?
Nowhere good. And I guess that's probably the story for, I think, most of the political establishment. I'm curious too with the big breaking scandal of the Somali-run daycares and so forth in Minnesota. It seems like we're seeing yet another piece of the tip of the iceberg that Doge started to uncover last February with all the misappropriation of money and what was it, the luring center. It's actually
Yeah,
the
right.
laundry center is what it should have said.
I don't want to be overtly cynical about this, but at the same time, okay, you're going after these grifters who ran these so-called learning centers in Minnesota. But what about Albert Bourla? What about all of the drug companies that did far worse to this country and profited far more handsomely? How many billions of dollars did they rake in on the so-called COVID vaccines? And apparently that's okay. That just passes quietly into the night. There's no accountability at all on that score. We're going to hear all about these Somalians, who are ripping off the government and the taxpayers. And granted, those people should be gone after, but it just seems to me it's just another diversion. It's another way to frame this left-right thing instead of actually focusing on who did the wrong things and let's deal with them.
No, you make a great point. And look, we've all been guilty of this before, swatting at symptoms instead of getting to the root of the problem. And it's good to remember if something kind of, piques your ire and gets you upset, it's time to take a breath, step back and ask yourself, is this being reported in such a way as to upset me? And if so, why? And who benefits if I'm upset? What
Yes.
is it keeping me from seeing?
Right, precisely, exactly. And I think we're going to be in for a lot more of that in the next few weeks. And by the way, another thing I wanted to mention too, and this isn't my own idea, I just thought it was worth bringing up. I read this in another article. Might have been Andrew Anglin. I can't remember who brought this out, but we're now at the point where Trump, he's feeling his oats. And who's going to stop him if he, for example, decides that we're not going to have congressional elections later this year,
Mm.
or if the elections are unfavorable to MAGA and a bunch of leftist Democrats get elected, which seems likely at this point, and he just decides, well, we're not going to acknowledge it. Who will stop him?
No,
Nobody.
that's a
The
good
military,
point.
the military is like, they're completely in his pocket. They're doing his bidding. There's no countervailing force anymore. And he's gotten so brazen and so audacious now, that I think combined with his personality trait, he feels that he can do whatever he wants to without constraint because what's anybody going to do about it?
That's a pretty scary place. And
It
and
is,
and
isn't it?
it's not a matter of, gee, Eric, that sounds like Trump derangement syndrome. And I say this because I know you would be saying the same thing regardless of who was sitting in the White House if they were doing these things. It's not a matter of, it's Trump's personality. Speaking of which, I have been visiting family in another state and in a very, very liberal enclave. And I have to grudgingly admit, we have a nation where people are living in two separate mental universes.
Yeah.
And those who watch, MS Now or whatever it's being called, they are getting just a steady, nonstop diet of Trump is to blame for everything. Everything is anti-Trump, and it is such a convincing narrative that they sit around and scare themselves and scare each other, just talking about it constantly. But is it based in reality? Not exactly.
It
It's
afflicts both sides, doesn't it? I think the take home point here is that the truth, objective reality, principles don't matter anymore to broad swaths of the population, whether you're talking about the left or the right. I mean, I do remember a time when the truth mattered. So if there was an expose, 60 Minutes, CBS News, whatever, back in the day, and something were revealed and it had to do with facts. Facts were respected once, and even if you were the person on the bad end of those facts, oh boy, uh-oh, well, you acknowledged them. You were shamed by them. You didn't just brazenly drive on and act as if the facts just didn't matter. And in fact, here's an alternative set of facts. We live in this. We live in a metastasized, politicized era now, where the only thing that matters is ideology, and it's a kind of hysteria. And again, go back and reread 1984 and the description of that hysteria, the state of constant hyper fanaticism on the part of the party people, who were willing to just adopt whatever the position was that their party told them they had to adopt, and to completely forget anything contrary. All that mattered is to be ideologically correct. And I think that this is something that applies both to the left and the right. And so, us weirdos who are still in the middle and who still are exercising independent judgment feel ourselves strangers in a strange land.
and I want to be clear too when I talk about how it's a separate mental universe. I'm not trying to label the people who have bought into that worldview as, oh, they're all incorrigible, they're all stupid, they're all evil. Some of the best people that I've met in my life I've met over the last couple of weeks, but a lot of them are still in the grasp of that spell. And to them it just seems like, well, of course this is the way it is, because their window on the world is telling them a very distorted version of the way things are. And I don't say this to condemn them. I'm saying this, that's why you and I and everybody else needs to be very careful about the content we consume, and making sure that we can vet it, and that we know that it's something of substance and not just vapor.
Yeah, the point that you make is an excellent one. It's not that these are bad people. In fact, some of the worst things are done by good people, because the good people they truly believe that they're in the right. The average German back during the bad old days in that part of the historical record, they didn't like gnash their teeth and think about how, oh, we're going to have us some fun rounding up people and throwing them into concentration camps or backing them up against the wall. They believed they were in an existential fight against evil, and that they were doing the absolutely right and necessary thing to save their country. This is the danger of that sort of mentality.
Here, here. And we can't be caught up in that. Now, having said that, let's talk about anything positive that you see as we head into the new year. I know this one might take a bit of effort, but
I'm trying to reach for it. There's so much that's not, that I feel like I just have to talk about it. I got into a discussion the other day with a friend of mine, who was tub thumping for Trump, and he said, "Look, Trump got rid of automated stop start. The acronym ASS, not to be crass,
mhm.
but that's the acronym that afflicts so many new cars." And I said, no, he actually didn't do that, because there is no federal requirement that the car companies have to install ASS in their cars. What there is, however, is compliance pressure. The government puts forth these regulations having to do with things like gas mileage and carbon dioxide emissions, and they leave it up to the vehicle manufacturers to figure out how to comply with it. It's a very important distinction to make. So the car companies, they decided, well, we'll come up with a system that shuts the engine off at every red light whenever the car stops, because a not running engine doesn't burn any gas and it doesn't emit any carbon dioxide. So that is one of the things that they came up with to comply. Well, Trump didn't eliminate the regulations that these manufacturers have to comply with. It's a red herring. It's a boogeyman. It's a trick. It's sleight of hand. Now, some good news. Okay, let's see. Some good news. Uh, a number of electric vehicles have been canceled, not just the F-150 Lightning, but also the electric version of the Ram 1500 that never actually made it into production. They were smart enough to kill it before it actually came out. And even better news, you can get an EV that actually makes some sense. I'm being facetious here. Hallmark, in cooperation with Ram, was selling a little Christmas tree ornament of the electric Ram that's not going to be made, that only costs $30. And it's not going to light your house on fire when you put it on the Christmas tree.
Oh man. What do you think of, I think it was yesterday, the president made an announcement about the currency system is going to have to be overhauled. And I thought,
Oh, oh
here
God.
we come. He's
Yeah.
saying it's all got to be, crypto, or it's got to be on the blockchain ledger. And I'd love to get your reaction to that. It sounds to me like that CBDC
Yeah, it's abject
maybe
terror on
lurking.
my part, abject terror, because it means the end of anonymity. It means the end of us having control over our financial decisions, which means the end of our control over essentially everything, unless you're going to go live on a homestead, live like an Amish person, or live in the woods, because it will give them the means to determine when, how, and on what you'll be able to spend your money. They're going to be able to instantly know every single transaction that you make, down to buying a can of soda out of a vending machine. And they'll be able to restrict your ability to do that, and subject it to your being a good social integer, as in China. It is absolutely catastrophic. And in a way, it's even worse than fiat money, because at least fiat money is still physical money in the sense that it's actually paper. This is entirely digital money, which don't even have to print it. They can just arbitrarily, summarily double the supply of it anytime that they like, and thereby extract half of our wealth by flipping a switch, just like that, because the buying power of it will be reduced by half. So I hope to God that that doesn't happen, because I do think that if it does, it's probably the end of life as we know it, in any sense of having some degree of personal freedom in this country.
Wow. Yep. And our goal here today is not to scare people, but you need to understand the stakes are very real. And whatever you can do to bolster your own privacy, or to reduce your governmental footprint, is probably going to pay off in spades down the road.
Yeah, and having real money, gold or silver, something tangible that's in your hand, boy, the value of that probably can't be overstated. And the fact that it has increased in value to the extent that it has, to me, suggests very strongly that people realize what's going on, and they are trying to find a way to protect their assets, their wealth, their ability to buy things, should this turn out to be the case.
Here, here. In the world of automotive things, anything come across your radar screen lately that you'd like to report to us?
Boy, well, let's see. Again, it's not necessarily good news, but apparently Mitsubishi, which has been struggling for the last several years, thinks that they're going to stage a comeback by bringing out another 60,000 K plus big SUV. And it's not even going to be a Mitsubishi SUV. It's going to be a rebadged Nissan Armada. They're going to do that badge engineering thing again. And I think it's a catastrophically bad decision, because I think we have passed this point in time where those types of vehicles were mass market sustainable. I just don't think there are that many Americans left who can afford to spend 60,000 plus on anything that's not absolutely essential. I think that if I had been in charge of Mitsubishi, what I would do is pour my resources into figuring out how to build a $15,000 simple little truck or car, something that people could afford to buy again. They might not make as much money on the sale of each one, but they would sell so many of them that they would make a fortune. Everybody that I talk to, and I talk to a lot of people, I get a lot of emails and comments from people all over the country. The country is crying for affordable vehicles again, useful, practical vehicles. And if only somebody would provide them, we would see how popular they would be.
Yep. Not all of us want all the gewgaws that are being forced on us, through those compliance measures that you were talking about, especially lane assist, automatic stop start, and the list goes on.
Oh, by the way, I'm going to have something about that tomorrow. I'll give you a hint about it. There has been a massive recall of BMWs because their electric assist power steering starts doing this while the people are driving the car. Now, it's supposed to do that by design. This is just a little bit more of an extreme. These electric assist power steering systems have been tied to lane keep assist. You've heard of that almost all these cars now have, which uses electric motors to move the steering wheel left or right to try to center the car in the lane. That's how it's sold. But the point is that the system is controlled electronically, not hydraulically, not mechanically, as it was in the past. And it's connected to a computer. The computer controls the motors. And that computer can be tied to an external controller because your car is connected. Signal comes into the computer, changes the software, changes the settings, and who knows what the car is going to do? It could steer into a tree. People think that they still have physical control over their vehicles because their hands on the wheel. It's not so. Anyway, I'm going to have an article up tomorrow that's going to get into that in some depth.
Okay, looking forward to it again. Talking with Eric Peters from ericpetersautos.com. You can find the link in my show notes at thebryanhydeshow.com. Eric, it's great to be back. What an exciting
Likewise.
year ahead of us. Looking forward to our next conversation.
See you in the bomb shelter.